Tonight, Sydney's flood emergency, rising water, rescues and grief on our roads. It's a long way from over.
A woman charged after a body was found at a unit block in Engadine. We have breaking details.
What really happened when Channel 9's boss tangled with a reporter, and now his own stars have turned against him.
The frantic search for TV doctor Michael Mosley, who's vanished in Greece.
Tears and pride on the beaches of Normandy as we honour the bravery that changed the world.
And the Broncos coach blows up over the punishment for the moment that rattled Origin 1.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Michael Usher and Angela Cox.
Good evening. Parts of Sydney are on flood alert tonight after more than 80 millimetres of rain soaked some suburbs in the last 24 hours.
The worst of the wet has been in the city's southwest, with Warragamba Dam spilling yet again and the chance of major flooding at North Richmond tonight.
It's rain rule number 1, but some will never learn. On the Menangle Bridge, chance gone wrong for two who tried their luck. They got away, their cars did not.
People need to just stop and forget it when the road's flooded, find another route.
And near Dapto today, rain rule number 2. Don't try this either.
Huge amounts of rain falling, a lot of flash flooding impacts.
Around Bankstown, an evacuation alert. The Georges River rising had the SES knocking.
At this stage, just be prepared. Thanks for all you do, eh?
Ditto at Picton, where they were packing bags too. From Parramatta to Penrith, the winter washout, leaving rivers raging and roads ransacked. By early morning, even the dam had seen enough, spilling yet again, with the chance of major flooding at North Richmond tonight. And here's why: 62 mils in 24 hours in the Sydney CBD, 79 at Campbelltown, 41 at Canterbury. On the harbour, the vivid light show below, no match for Mother Nature above. 5 lightning strikes in 1 wicked hit. To the south, it was worse, much worse. Waist-deep water after 150 mils of rain through parts of the south coast.
We do have with this system as well, just by chance, particularly high tides at the moment.
There were rescues galore, almost 50 of them, while some carved a path for themselves.
The majority, unfortunately, people in vehicles getting stuck in the wrong place.
Absolutely chucking it down.
For some, hard to get out of the driveway. For others, hard to get out the door. This man stuck up a tree.
Lots and lots and lots of water.
And how's this for pothole potluck, happening right before the eyes?
Oh my God.
And this might bring a smile as well.
We are expecting the rain to ease. Sunday and Monday are also looking mostly dry through the Sydney Basin. Top temperatures up around 19 or 20 degrees right across the long weekend.
Let's go to Tom Saker now, who joins us from the city. Tom, good evening. It is a busy night heading out of Sydney for the long weekend.
That's right, Michael, and traffic is fairly heavy going on the Princess Highway around Sutherland. Also further south past Nowra, also on the Princess Highway. Roads are still closed there due to flooding. The good news is that traffic is flowing fairly smoothly on the M1 North, but the Richmond and Yarramundi bridges are still closed due to flooding. That's causing several headaches for drivers around Windsor. If you are thinking about going down to the mountains for the first official day of snow season tomorrow, unfortunately there is only one lift open because of hardly any snow. That is at Perisher, and just a reminder that double demerits are already in force and will be through to the end of Monday.
Good morning there, Tom. Thank you.
In breaking news, a woman has just been charged after a man's body was found in Sydney's south. Let's go live to Chris Marr in Engadine. Chris, what do we know so far?
And police have been attempting to put together events leading up to the death of a man at this Engadine unit complex. Now, at 3 a.m. this morning, emergency services were called to a unit where they found a man unresponsive. Paramedics treated the 36-year-old but were unable to revive him, and he died at the scene. Police arrested a 33-year-old woman here, and she was taken to Sutherland Hospital to undergo mandatory drug and alcohol testing. Now, she's been charged with dangerous driving, occasioning death, and driving under the influence. Now, a short time ago, a car with visible damage on the passenger side was removed from this unit complex by police and taken away by tow truck. Police are urging anyone with information to come forward to Crime Stoppers. Ange.
Chris Marr, thank you. Detectives in Maryland are on the hunt for a driver who fled after a mother pushing a pram was hit by a car. The woman was found on the side of Claremont Street with leg injuries and taken to hospital early this afternoon. Fortunately, the baby inside the pram was unharmed. It's understood the driver didn't stop to help the mother.
Well, things have gone from bad to worse at Channel 9 as its chairman now faces serious allegations of assault. Peter Costello, the former federal treasurer, denies any fault after a nasty run-in with a journalist. But even some of Nine's biggest on-air stars see it differently.
Nine Entertainment chairman Peter Costello, making front-page news in his own papers.
Mr Costello, did you assault a journalist at Canberra Airport?
He says he didn't.
I did not lay a finger or a fist or anything else on it.
Approached at Canberra Airport by News Corp journalist Liam Mendes, asked about Nine's sexual harassment crisis, here is what happened.
Don't. You've just assaulted me. You've just pushed me. It's all on camera. Mr Costello.
Mr Costello stopping to pick up his coat, laughing. His version.
As I walked past him, he walked back into an advertising placard and he fell over.
Eyewitnesses, though, saw it differently.
He hit you about here and I watched you fall over there. I was just out there having a smoke on the phone.
Yeah, okay. He was trying to say that I walked into there, but I don't think...
You got two guys that saw shunting,
Yeah, so you guys saw that?
Yeah. We saw it.
Peter Costello was in Canberra last night to open Nine's new press gallery office. Today, Nine's board had a scheduled committee meeting and, suddenly, a new reputational issue to discuss. From Nine's own radio stars...
Boss, you've had a shocker.
That is a very, very bad look for Peter Costello.
Support from Peter Dutton.
I've never known Peter to be aggressive.
And on Nine's Today Show, a dig.
Is there a job going at Channel 9 as the chairman?
Wow, he's gone early, Bill.
Too soon.
What does Peter Costello think of suggestions he should stand down?
Rubbish.
Knocking that right over. Mark Riley, 7 News.
A Qantas plane bound for New Zealand was forced to return to Sydney this morning after colliding with a bird. The flight to Auckland was 30 minutes into the trip when it had to turn back. Touching down at Mascot around 9 a.m. without incident. Passengers have been rebooked on other flights. Engineers are inspecting the plane for damage.
A desperate search is unfolding as we go to air tonight for celebrity doctor Michael Mosley. The 67-year-old vanished on the Greek island of Symi, last seen heading for a coastal walk on a rocky trail. As search crews pour in from across Greece, they're struggling to find any trace of him.
In the skies above paradise, helicopters scan the pristine coastline, dreading a grim find.
This I find utterly unbelievable, I have to say.
Celebrity doctor Michael Mosley missing. His food revolution, including the 5-2 diet, has changed lives around the world.
I want to wake up the nation and its movers and shakers.
He arrived in Symi on Tuesday with his wife. The next morning, they travelled to St Nicholas Beach. 1:30 p.m, he walked back to his holiday home alone and without his phone. Usually a 20-minute hike, but in searing heat. 6 hours later, his wife sounded the alarm, police fearing he'd fallen from a height. Islanders sharing this photo, asking, "Have you seen this man?" But the massive search is plagued by confusion. Witnesses claim they saw Mosley speaking with others after his walk.
All the rescue teams of the island are looking to find him.
Mosley's mission often took him to Australia. He joined Ray Kelly in the fight against diabetes.
When I got a chance to work with him, I jumped at it. He definitely sort of speaks to the researchers and tries to get a great understanding of how the research actually works in the real world.
But tonight it's his family and countless followers left desperate for answers. Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
The Albanese government has moved to toughen Australia's migration laws, scrapping rules that allowed foreign-born criminals with family here to avoid being deported.
Controversial Direction 99 will be repealed in 2 weeks, replaced with a new order prioritising community safety.
After weeks of pressure and calls for his head, the Immigration Minister attempts to clean up the mess.
Today I've signed Ministerial Direction 110.
Replacing his old Direction 99, which softened Australia's migration laws, directing the Administrative Appeals Tribunal to consider foreign-born criminals' ties to Australia as a primary factor when reviewing visa cancellations.
There are people who have fallen victim to these criminals who have stayed in our country who should have been deported.
Including murderers, rapists and pedophiles.
The new revised direction will make crystal clear that the Australian government expects community protection to be given greater weight.
Effectively reneging on a promise Anthony Albanese made to former New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern to stop deporting Kiwi criminals who'd spent most of their lives in Australia.
It's just not right that we think that people who have no connection to New Zealand are deported to New Zealand.
The new directive won't come into effect for another 2 weeks. In the meantime, around 10 visa cases will be decided under the old rules. The Minister watching those closely, revealing...
Since the beginning of last week, I've cancelled 40 visas.
But the opposition's not convinced the new order goes far enough.
It continues to have ties to the Australian community as a primary consideration, and that will lead the AAT to make decisions like they have been before.
Keeping the pressure on.
Do you expect to keep the job, Minister, over the winter break?
Rob Scott, 7 News.
A new mini city on the site of Rosehill Racecourse is a step closer tonight after clearing its first hurdle. But while it's backed by the Premier, the plan to build 25,000 homes over the famous track still has plenty betting against it.
In the race to solve Sydney's housing crisis,
racing now,
the bid to redevelop Rosehill is underway.
Well, the process has gone to the second stage.
The Australian Turf Club writing to members this morning saying the New South Wales government has accepted the Stage 1 initial submission. Its hope is to profit from selling off and developing the 60-hectare site into 25,000 dwellings. The Premier is riding on it.
This could be a great opportunity both for the state and for racing in New South Wales. I'd ask people to suspend judgment until all the information's on the table, because this could be a game changer for the city and for racing.
But turning Rosehill into a housing development is still far from a sure bet. Stage 1 just the first hurdle in a 4-stage process for approval. Then throw in how controversial the plan is, and it means there is still a very long race to run. Rosehill can't be sold without Turf Club members voting for it.
It's a gross overdevelopment, in my opinion. The members don't want it, and from the feedback I've received, the residents don't want it.
Racing heavyweights like Gay Waterhouse, Chris Waller and Anthony Cummings have already voiced their opposition, and in an industry as much about passion as it is money, words like this speak volumes.
I'm a member of the ATC. I love Rosehill. Rosehill is the home for us. There are plenty of places to build houses.
Andrew Denny, 7 News.
D-Day veterans have issued warnings about the horrors of war as world leaders say the lessons from 80 years ago matter now more than ever. 1 million people have gathered on the Normandy coast in France to mark the anniversary of the massive Allied campaign.
By the beaches of Normandy, those of the greatest generation return. Once they were barely adults fighting to free a continent, today applauded by presidents, princes,
very nice to meet you,
prime ministers and a forever grateful people. Along the French coast, multiple services commemorating a most mighty campaign.
Here you came to join your efforts with our own soldiers and to make France a free nation. And you are back here today, at home, if I may say.
160,000 Allied troops sent by sea and air to defeat Nazism. 10,000 killed, wounded or injured in a single day. Watching from the air, 19-year-old Australian Max Bowrey.
I had a marvellous view of the Channel with over 5,000 ships.
Later shot down, captured by the Nazis and freed, Max turns 100 this year.
Well, I suppose it sets an example of what can be done to try and retain this lifestyle that we have. It would certainly have been a different lifestyle if the Nazi people had taken over.
If the debt paid by an entire generation to fight tyranny appears overwhelming, that's because it was. The message here, 8 decades on, democracy again needs defending. Volodymyr Zelensky, a modern-day wartime leader embraced by veterans.
Oh, you're the saviour of the people.
The US president warning,
we will not walk away.
100-year-old Harold Terrans hoping the sacrifice was not in vain.
I come here to pay my respects to the 9,634 buddies of mine that are buried right in back of me. War is disgusting, and I am an advocate of democracy.
A victory valued 80 years on, a peace feeling fragile. In Normandy, France, Hugh Whitfeld, 7 News.
Australia's favourite horse, Winx, is back in the spotlight tonight with the premiere of a dramatic new documentary. Let's go live to Serena Andaloro. Fittingly, at Randwick. Serena, hello to you. Who'll be there tonight?
Well, Michael, all the human stars of the Winx story, the connections who helped make a world-class champion. The documentary offers a different angle on the story we all know about Winx, her battles behind the scenes, away from the racetrack.
It's the fairy tale you know.
But here she comes, right over the top, Winx!
Our winning wonder. But there's a twist.
I wouldn't even watch her going into the barriers. She was a time bomb.
The secret backstory of a racing great under pressure to maintain an impossible winning streak.
If we didn't do the surgery, she was not going to survive.
Something happened to her.
I think people will learn new things about Winx, and I think the public will fall in love with her all over again.
The dramatic documentary, A Horse Named Winx, follows her record-breaking reign.
We're excited but worried. We're all a little concerned and worried about how people will react to it.
For co-owner Debbie Kapitas, it's a story so close to her heart. She snapped up Winx's foal at auction for an eye-watering $10 million.
My heart sunk and I was looking at her and I just thought, I can't do this. I think I need to have her. Winx is like a daughter and Winnie's like our granddaughter.
The film is in cinemas September 5.
Yeah, there always is a twist to these stories.
It's love, it's heart, it's legacy.
Serena Andaloro, 7 News.
Time to check the forecast now with Sally Bowrey. And Sal, lots of rain around Sydney, but also the long weekend means the start of the ski season. How are the slopes looking?
Well, pretty grim actually. The ski runs are mostly grass at the moment after snow, which fell earlier this week, was washed away by rain today. The good news is a dump of snow is forecast next week, which will certainly be a welcome sight for the local businesses in the area who are all hoping for a good ski season this year. Across the city today, we saw some slices of sun through the clouds and reached a top of 19 degrees and 17 in our west. There are still 7 flood warnings in place across the state at the moment, but all that rain is just slowly making its way out to sea via our river systems. From here on in, though, there is certainly a drying trend. We've got that low just drifting off to the south. A high will start to influence our skies over the coming days, and that means plenty of sunshine on the way. Tonight, a low of 9 degrees in Blacktown. We might just see a few showers tomorrow. They'll be confined to the coast, though. I'll tell you which suburbs will see them with Sydney's long weekend forecast a little later, guys.
OK, thanks, Sal. One of the world's most famous conservationists at Sydney's most famous zoo. After the break, 90 years young, and Jane Goodall still a hit with the kids.
The crash that left a police car crumpled and an officer in hospital.
The deadly attack on a Gaza school. Israel insists terrorists were hiding inside.
Later, the old Holdens running out of time, drivers being driven to desperation.
And the race is on as Elon Musk chases Boeing into space. Thank you for watching 7 News. A young police officer has been sacked for throwing a projectile at an NRL referee. The off-duty probationary constable was dismissed over the incident, which happened during the Roosters' clash with the Storm at Allianz Stadium in April. His father, a senior constable, is also under investigation. Both have been banned from attending matches by the NRL and Venues New South Wales. A police officer and 2 others have been seriously hurt in a shocking crash on the Gold Coast. A police car was crumpled after being slammed by a Mitsubishi while at a traffic stop. The 55-year-old officer, together with the female driver of the Triton and her 2-year-old passenger, were taken to hospital.
Israel has been condemned tonight over an airstrike in central Gaza that's killed at least 40 people, many of them women and children. It claims Hamas terrorists were hiding in the school where thousands of homeless Palestinians were sheltering.
The dead wrapped in the blankets they'd been sleeping in, victims of a pre-dawn strike. Missiles hitting the top floors of the UN-run school, doubling as a place of refuge for families seeking safety. Here is where the United Nations say 6,000 Palestinians were sheltering. We were sleeping and suddenly the place fell on our heads, this boy says. I don't know what happened. Israel claims Hamas terrorists were among them.
Terrorists with blood on their hands.
Saying some were involved in the October 7 attack, leading the Israeli Defence Force to carry out what it called a precision strike on the classrooms on the 2nd and 3rd floor, claiming to have intelligence. At least 20 militants were using it as a base.
The terrorists inside this school were planning more attacks against Israelis, some of them imminent.
Women and children are believed to be among the dead.
14 children were killed. Those aren't terrorists. We expect them to be fully transparent in making that information public.
The strike adding to urgent calls for a ceasefire. The White House demanding Hamas accept the offer on the table, saying there's no time to lose. In the United States, David Woodward, 7 News.
In her 20s, Jane Goodall shocked the world living with chimpanzees in Tanzania. She was a trailblazer in conservation and forever changed our understanding of our relationship with animals. At 90, she hasn't slowed down a bit, visiting Sydney today to inspire the next generation of wildlife warriors.
Forget the chimpanzees. Dr. Jane Goodall was the main attraction at Taronga Zoo today. The world-renowned conservationist kicking off the Sydney leg of her Reasons for Hope tour, inspiring younger generations to follow in her footsteps.
It's magic and, going around the world I meet this everywhere.
Famous for her unorthodox approach to research, at 26 years old, Goodall travelled to Africa to live among the chimpanzees, studying them in their natural habitat. 6 decades on, her legacy strong. Local members of her global Roots and Shoots youth program today thrilled to meet their hero.
I just love how much she cares about her environment and the people around the world.
She's gone to Africa and studied the chimps. I aspire to go to Africa as well.
The 90-year-old spreading this message of hope.
Without hope, we're doomed. We're literally doomed.
Grace Fitzgibbon, 7 News.
A famous Australian storyteller, now a prized work of art. Up next, the Bond that delivered an Archibald winner.
The world's most powerful rocket blasts off, and for once, it didn't explode.
The booming Sydney suburbs about to get 2 new schools.
Australia's world-leading dementia test spotting the disease early.
And ahead in sport, the Rabbitohs coach begs the Blues. You have to pick Latrell for Game 2.
Well, for decades, Tim Winton has been a celebrated Australian author. His words creating portraits of wonderful characters, so it's fitting then that his portrait has won this year's Archibald Prize.
Artist Laura Jones says she bonded with the novelist over a common cause.
No stranger to 1,000 words, but today was all about his picture.
Laura Jones for her portrait of Tim Winton,
winning the $100,000 Archibald Prize.
What does this mean for you?
Oh, everything. It's so totally overwhelming and I'm so grateful. He's enchanted them with his books and words, but he's also an incredible environmental advocate, so we share that passion.
Using muted, paper-like colours to focus on his face.
What did he think?
He said he looked like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders, and I certainly tried to convey that. I don't think he loved it, I don't know.
The judges unanimous, calling it honest.
You feel that if you linger in front of the painting, you're going to learn something, an insight into Tim Winton.
As well as winning the prize this year, Laura Jones was also an Archibald subject, featuring in this work that also made the final.
becoming just the 12th woman to win in its 104-year history, hanging alongside a gallery of finalists featuring artists, musicians, sports stars. Carolyn's portrait of actor Jacob Elordi getting global attention online.
The arts are being brought to people that would otherwise never experience art.
For the first time, Indigenous artists winning both the Sulman Subject Prize,
Naomi Kanchurini,
and the Wynne Landscape Prize.
Now I am crying, but this time with happiness.
All the finalists on display from tomorrow. Paul Kadak, 7 News.
Western Sydney is in for another splash of cash with new schools announced today for the booming suburb of Box Hill. It's all part of the government's $3.6 billion plan to develop public schools in high-growth areas. The new schools, one primary, one secondary, will open their doors in 2028 and cater for 2,000 students. We are watching a space race right now, not seen since the 1960s when America and Russia raced each other to the moon. SpaceX successfully launched its mega rocket today and returned it to Earth, while Boeing was making giant steps of its own in outer space.
The world's most powerful rocket showing its force.
We have liftoff.
This is SpaceX's Starship making a smooth ascent. After 3 failed test flights, suspense was building. This time, the booster successfully separated from the spacecraft, both surviving re-entry.
Wow, what a light show so far.
Both splashing down into the Gulf of Mexico as planned.
And we have splashdown! Congratulations to the SpaceX team!
It wasn't flawless. Part of the spacecraft broke away on the way down.
How far can it go? That is the question.
But it's progress and expected to play an important role in NASA's plan to return astronauts to the moon. SpaceX founder Elon Musk is dreaming bigger, shooting for Mars. Today was a great day for humanity's future as a spacefaring civilization. It comes as his competitor Boeing reaches its own milestone.
Butch and Sunny have made their arrival.
Its Starliner successfully carrying 2 astronauts to the International Space Station, where they'll stay for the next 8 days. It's all part of NASA's plan to expand its use of commercial vessels to transport astronauts and cargo out of this world. In the United States, Smiley Hogan, 7 News.
22 tornadoes have been recorded across 5 United States, with at least one of them turning deadly. A 2-year-old boy was killed when a tree fell on the Michigan house where he and his mother were sleeping. In Maryland, around a dozen twisters struck, leaving people injured and some trapped, including this one just outside Washington, D.C.
The real-life drama swirling around baby Reindeer just keeps getting crazier. Now the woman claiming to be the real-life inspiration for fictional stalker Martha is suing Netflix. Fiona Harvey is seeking $250 million in damages, citing defamation, negligence and emotional distress. It's a move Harvey flagged in her interview with Piers Morgan, with Netflix saying it will defend the matter vigorously.
Australian scientists are developing a world-leading test to detect dementia almost a decade before symptoms show. It is a breakthrough that could help doctors stop the disease in its tracks.
Reflecting on happier times, this was Catherine Moyle and her husband Chris before his dementia diagnosis 8 years ago.
It's been a major change, a lot of grieving for what was, and now we try to make the best of every day.
It's a disease that affects up to 500,000 Australians. Now, world first research can predict dementia up to a decade in advance with 80% accuracy.
If it delivers on what it says it can do, then this is a very exciting breakthrough.
Doctors can analyse MRI scans to detect areas of the brain affected by Alzheimer's disease before the damage is done.
If we can slow down the process by another 10-15 years, that's huge. We can actually slow down so much it almost stops.
And help save lives.
If we use these drugs well before the onset of symptoms,
we can potentially stop the symptoms ever developing so the person won't die of Alzheimer's disease.
Currently, there is no cure, but researchers say leading a healthy lifestyle, including eating well and regular exercise, can help reduce the risk.
We're going to be more likely to focus on these brain health promoting activities if we know that we are already in the first stages of developing dementia.
Ainsley Kosh, 7 News.
A boatload of problems for Clive Palmer just ahead. His $40 million super yacht runs aground.
Your ticket to the Grandparents Club as a special Sydney tour gets underway.
Crunch time for old Holden's, a sad sight for Aussie car lovers.
And soon in sport, Origin fallout, another Blues blow while Para push for Mitch Moses.
Billionaire Clive Palmer has hit troubled waters after his $40 million super yacht struck a sandbar on the Gold Coast Broadwater last night. The mining magnate wasn't on board, but it took 4 hours for the tide to rise and a tugboat to free the super yacht. It also ran aground in Singapore last year. Maritime safety officers are now investigating.
Food delivery riders are the focus of a new safety push, warning of the dangers of e-bikes. Dozens of riders from companies like Uber Eats and DoorDash were invited to the city for an awareness campaign on the risk of lithium battery fires.
This is a tool of your trade and we want you to be able to use that as safely as possible.
Safe Work has also been zeroing in on compliance, carrying out safety inspections on delivery companies. Well, if you're a lover of bowls or bingo, you're invited to The Club and a new Australian musical hitting theatres and RSLs.
It celebrates the joys and mishaps that come with being a grandparent, featuring some famous faces and promising plenty of laughs.
Places, everyone!
The golden years have never looked so golden.
Welcome to the Grandparents Club.
With sharp moves and sharper wit, these aren't your average nans and pops.
They're sort of reinventing the image of grandparents. These are all singing, all dancing, all wisecracking grandparents.
This is the Grandparents Club, an all-Australian musical on the eccentric side of grandparenthood, written by Wendy Harmer and featuring a familiar face. It's not Summer Bay, but Lynn McGranger is right at home.
Well, there's no murders here so far, and and I don't think we've had any drug raids, have we?
You were going to be amazed. That girl can really sing.
Set in a community club with no kids or parents allowed, it's coming to your local club.
People will walk in to their club and they'll look up on stage and they'll see, it's a club.
A love letter to a universal joy of life, even for those without grandkids.
I am a grandparent in waiting, and this show has made me clucky.
Whether you're old or you're young, you know, that joy of connecting with people.
The show is now open, touring Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra and everywhere in between.
I'm you, me, we, busy grandma, we.
Serena Andaloro, 7 News.
Well, time now for a check on the markets with finance editor Gemma Acton. And Gem, how's the share market closed out for the week?
Michael, we've had a solid end to a robust week, boosted by news that central banks in both Canada and Europe cut interest rates in recent days. Meanwhile, today insurance giant QBE locked in its highest close in 13 years. The Aussie dollar has taken another step higher and closer towards 67 US cents, while iron ore had a strong session overnight. And nearly 1 million Australian workers hold multiple jobs. It is a new record and equates to 6.7% of all employed people. A higher proportion of women than men hold multiple jobs, while 20 to 24-year-olds are the most likely cohort to be working in more than one place. Michael.
Gem, thank you for that.
Crunch time for a national icon still to come inside the Holden graveyard as car lovers battle to keep their beloved vehicles on the roads. The memories are golden, but the passion might not be worth the price. Don't miss that story soon on 7 News.
But first, Matt is here with Sport. Matt, good evening to you. The Origin fallout, it is still red hot.
Oh, Michael and Angela, I still can't believe people think it wasn't a send-off. But anyway, Kevy Walters is furious over the hit on Reece Walsh. It will ignite tension with the Roosters. That's next. Also, grab on to whatever you can. A thrilling Women's Origin series goes to a must-see decider. And Sydney's Josh Green on the wrong end of an all-time NBA Finals highlight. The Origin fallout rages on, inflamed by Broncos coach Kevin Walters today. He says Reece Walsh must be protected and Joseph Suaali'i's 4-game suspension is nowhere near enough. Kevy's comments will only stir bad blood between the Roosters and Broncos.
Winners are grinners for Reece Walsh at Broncos training today. His coach couldn't have been angrier.
The NRL have got to protect him. That's who's got to protect him and be harder on the suspensions.
Joseph Suaali'i has accepted his 4-week ban for the hit that knocked out Walsh in Game 1. For Kevy Walters, it isn't close to enough.
4 weeks for what he actually did. Reece will be missing for us for 4 weeks. That's not going to deter another player from coming out and next time Reece plays trying to take his head off again.
Whether New South Wales targeted him...
Well, it's not right for me to try and feel what their plan was, but I saw what their actions were. You make your own mind up.
If it were up to his Eels teammates, Mitch Moses would be a lock for the Blue 7 jersey in Game 2.
Well, 100%. I think he's built for that arena.
If Mitchell is that person to step in, he's going to go out there and do his role.
The incumbent Nico Hines will be rested for tomorrow's Sharks-Broncos clash and faces being axed by Michael Maguire too.
I've got zero control over that. What I do want to do is get him back to full health and get that calf right and get him back to his best.
Pat McInnes will back up for Cronulla, but Liam Martin won't for the Panthers. He'll miss Sunday's game against Manly with a foot injury and is in doubt for Origin 2. Ben Hornby has no doubts who he'd pick to play at the MCG.
I wouldn't want to be standing opposite Latrell in Origins.
South skipper Cam Murray could return from a hip injury against the Broncos next week. James Manton, 7 News.
The women are getting the Origin decider they forced by popular demand. Bittersweet for the Sky Blues after an old-fashioned Queensland comeback in Newcastle last night. 10-all torrential rain, puddles forming.
Goes to Brown, has time, drills it!
Lauren Brown puts the boot into a rough week for New South Wales Rugby League.
And I'm glad it actually bounced in this field. I thought it was going to drop and just stay there and I'd miss the whole thing.
But the Sky Blues can look on the bright side.
It's worked out really well that we get that third game for that actual decider.
Real Origin footy.
Finds Teitzel,
That a record 25,000 would sit in this weather and watch anything at all shows the skyrocketing appreciation of Women's Rugby League. Up 10-4 and totally dominant. Not the first New South Wales team wondering how these Queenslanders pulled it off. The decider's in Townsville on June 27, where the Sky Blues won last year.
For our women's game to be growing and fans loving our game and wanting to come and support us, and that's what we want.
I honestly can't believe it's real. I'm like, are we dreaming right now?
Player of the match, Shannon Martor, is facing a 1 to 2 game ban for yanking Yasmin Clydesdale to the ground by her ponytail. The Socceroos young guns want to put an unbeaten full stop on their second stage of World Cup qualifying. 18-year-old Wiz Nesteri Irankunda made his debut in last night's 2-0 win over Bangladesh in Dhaka. They're already home to much kinder conditions in Perth, hosting Palestine on Tuesday. 20-year-old Alessandro Ciccati says they're building a special squad.
You need to understand everyone. You need to sort of get in the Socceroos spirit and sort of be like a family with everyone else.
Ciccati's already thriving as a defender in Italy, helping his club Parma return to the Serie A. David Warner says he couldn't care less about criticism of his selection after starting the T20 World Cup with a half-century, passing Aaron Finch as Australia's leading scorer in the format.
David Warner is unheard of.
Like it's in one ear out the other. Like I don't understand why it's always about myself. Like there's 11 players in the team.
The tournament has its first shock. Forced to a super over by the USA, Pakistan conceded 18 runs, including 7 wides from Mohammad Amir. The Americans claimed a 5-run victory, a dream result for international cricket chiefs, hoping cricket's about to boom in the States. A distraught Coco Gauff left Roland Garros in tears, already trailing Iga Świątek. An errant line call and overrule with a breaking point for the American in her semi-final. Into her 4th final in 5 years, Świątek will play for her 3rd straight French Open title. The world number 1 will face Jasmine Paolini in the final. The 28-year-old Italian defeated 17-year-old Mira Andreeva to reach her maiden Grand Slam final. What a story. In his NBA Finals debut, Hills Hornets junior Josh Green was on the wrong side of a Boston block party.
Here comes Josh Green, one man to beat, but it's a 7-footer who blocks it again!
At least Josh played his part in an all-time finals highlight. After 10 games out, Kristaps Porzingis returned to put the hammer down on Dallas with Jaylen Brown, 107-89. It's an imposing start to the championship series by the Celtics. And by the NBA in Japan, Xavier Cook's homecoming for 3 years is a coup for the Sydney Kings.
This is my basketball home. I've been here for 4 years and created some of my greatest basketball memories here, and I can't wait to create some more and just to be back at Kudos Bank and get that thrill of it again.
The one-time NBL MVP is still a chance to make his Olympic debut for the Boomers in Paris. Send-off, no send-off, Latrell, no Latrell. That's what we love about Origin time. I'm copying it.
Whatever helps the Blues.
What about the women's, though, with that ponytail grab? That was dirty.
Outstanding footy. Yeah.
Thanks, Maddie. The iconic Holden Commodore, once king of the mountain, is fast disappearing from our roads. A lot of them written off because of a shortage of parts.
Owners are desperate to preserve their piece of motoring history, but insurers say they're too expensive to repair.
For Commodore lovers, it's a sad sight. A graveyard for the nation's once top-selling car. Enthusiasts are battling to keep their iconic Australian-made cars on the road, raiding wreckers for vital components amid a critical parts shortage. Even used bumpers, bonnets and doors have doubled in price.
It's cheaper for the insurance companies to pay them out these days because it's hard to get the parts and they're so expensive, so they just write off the car.
More than ever, doting owners are fighting to preserve the legend.
Holden Monaro quickly takes the lead.
The Kingswood? You're not taking the Kingswood.
Bruce Lethborg has been waiting months for a replacement bumper for his beloved 1992 VP Commodore.
Member's got various cars from the 60s right through to the 90s and 2000s, of course, and yeah, they're all experiencing issues with getting certain mainly panels and trims and switches.
General Motors claims the parts shortage is due to their moulded plastic supplier going into administration. The car company says it's been working with administrators and hopes that production will restart in around 3 months. Commodore tragics are banking on it.
What's so good about Commodores?
Aussie. Aussie. Oi, oi, oi.
Jackie Quist, 7 News.
Sally's back now. And so, will the rain clear for the long weekend?
It will, and it's looking good. The sun's going to make a comeback this weekend. I'll have all the details with your 7-day forecast next.
Tomorrow on Weekend Sunrise, we go off the beaten track. Road trips you've never heard of in your state to help you skip the crowds. Plus, winter superfoods, the recipes trending now to fight the flu. And behind the scenes with one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Only on Weekend Sunrise.
Tonight's 7 News headlines. Warragamba Dam is spilling and parts of Sydney remain on flood alert after heavy rainfall.
A woman has been charged with multiple driving offences after a man was found dead at an Engadine unit block.
A desperate search is ongoing after the mystery disappearance of celebrity doctor Michael Mosley.
The federal government has revealed new migration rules protecting Australians from foreign-born criminals. Now here's Sally with Sydney's weather.
Very much, Ange. Well, after an absolute soaking, Sydney will finally see a break from the rain this weekend as those floodwaters continue to recede. We certainly saw a drenching though, but today some slithers of sunshine across the city, a little bit of cloud too at times. We reached a top of 19 degrees around midday and it's currently sitting on 16. We did see a few more light showers just top up those already very wet suburbs across Sydney's west today. Generally, in terms of the rainfall, it was less than 5 millimetres for most of us, although Camden picked up double that with 10 millimetres and tops of 16 degrees. Now, the low that triggered the rain will continue just to slide south. It's going to take all that moisture and most of the cloud band with it. And then we've got a high pressure system set to just edge in closer to us over the next 24 hours. And that system's really going to take hold of the skies pretty much across the state. It'll clear up the bulk of the wet weather and return sunshine for most of us, although we will see just a few coastal showers, particularly through those southern areas. Around the capital cities for tomorrow, Brisbane 22 degrees, plenty of sunshine there, 15 into Melbourne, 16 for Adelaide, cloudy skies expected. While on the west coast in Perth, we do have another frontal system approaching, so a few showers will start up towards the end of the day with tops of 21 degrees. A closer look at New South Wales, and tomorrow we'll see some showers just for the southern half of the coast. Light falls around 5 to 10 millimetres, and they will push into the ranges and also the adjacent western slopes. The rest of the story, though, is pretty dry and sunny, particularly for the north coast and right into the far west. We might just wake up to a bit of fog, particularly with all that leftover moisture from all the rainfall, and some frost is also possible around the northern ranges and also the southern slopes. In terms of temperatures tomorrow, they're going to be a little bit below average under cloud cover through the north, a bit cooler also through the middle areas, and in the south actually a bit above average. Wagga Wagga 19 degrees, Crookwell 13, Mildura 15. Across Sydney suburbs tomorrow, partly cloudy skies are expected. In terms of the wet weather, it will just be showers for the coastal fringe. Only 2 millimetres is forecast, so very light falls. 20 degrees at Richmond, Parramatta and 21 at Penrith. On the water tomorrow, we've got westerly winds around 10 knots, increasing before dawn, and they'll push up to around 30 knots offshore by the afternoon. We'll drop down to 10 degrees in the city tonight, and it will be rain-free. 21 tomorrow with a shower or two. Once again, as I said, just very light falls. Sunday's looking beautiful though, clear, 20 degrees. The holiday Monday, 19 degrees and no showers expected. In fact, that's pretty much the story over the next run of days. Little bit of cloud at times, but otherwise the only sign of wet weather is all the way next Friday. So that sounds good.
We can dry out this weekend.
Indeed.
Right, Sal, thank you for that. That is 7 News for this Friday. We'll have updates for you throughout the evening.
Weekend Sunrise starts at 7 tomorrow from all of the 7 News team. Thanks so much for your company and have a great night.
Good night.
Stream 7 News live and on demand on 7plus and stay informed on 7news.com.au. Nobody knows news better.